Hello. Anyway, in this video, I was asked by someone about website designing. So, what's something good, what's something bad to use in regards to how you to create a website? There's basically many different options in regards to things. And we're talking about some of the potential ways you can do it more on the programming side of things, then go into things like the CMS, content management systems, as well, and other things you may want to use. So, in this case, I'll be starting simply on Python. So why exactly may you want to use this one to do website design or something else? Well, you have many different advantages of using this compared to content management systems. Well, for one, it will load a lot faster. You have the options to customize in any way, such as change the cover font very easy, the background, the graphics, make videos load fast. You can do all these things very quickly. But the main reason people wouldn't want to use this sort of software, you will generally have to spend time learning it, or if you don't have time, you'd have to pay someone to do the site management for you. This site itself, one of the things that makes it very good for running this type of software is it's fully designed for it. You'll often find your site will load very fast. I have a Python site myself, which does load very fast. It also allows me to make things look beautiful very quickly. I don't have to rely on plugins, themes. I have the options to do anything I want. I can copy code myself. I can type in codes. I'll be able to see mistakes. The support behind this service as well is really good. So if you were new to Python, you could potentially use this software to help you build your site, build your app, or whatever you're trying to do. So that's something you can do if you want to go down the more coding side of things. Now I'm going to go through some other ones as well. So React, in case you don't know what React means, I'll give you a bit of information. I'm not going to go into it too much. This is not really what this first video is. To give you some basic information into survey. So what exactly is React? Well, it's basically a way you can design websites. You may be thinking, okay, what sites run in React? Well, some good examples would be Facebook runs in React itself, among other things. Netflix loads on it, and many other software. So why exactly do Facebook and other people want to use React instead of something else? Well, React itself is a JavaScript library. So it's like JavaScript Plus, if you like. You can have a website running basically mostly in JavaScript. That's definitely plausible. But JavaScript itself does have some disadvantages as well. So JavaScript with React included is kind of like JavaScript Plus. So JavaScript plus 2, plus 10, whatever you want to call it. You can also make many very high quality sites using React itself. But if you don't have a programming background or a real website design background, React itself may prove complicated for you or hard for you to work. But you can take a React course, let's say Udemy or somewhere else. There's lots of potential ways you can do things on React. You can also make sites load very fast. For example, my own little React site itself, it does load fast, it does look good. I'll be doing more design and working on it this week and this month as well, and also next month. But React itself has many potential things. That's one of the reasons I want to use it. It's also a lot more secure. That is something which is a big problem with regards to content management. Content management systems in most cases are super easy to hack. By super easy to hack, an average child to young man, young woman can potentially hack a content management system. Such as WordPress itself is incredibly easy to hack. You don't have to be a smart person to do it. Anyone can basically do it. It's very easy, I'm afraid. But regarding to React itself, I'm afraid, is a lot more secure. Python as well is, again, a lot more secure. These are big advantages when it comes to things. If you just got a simple site, then content management systems can work really good. But if you want something which is going to be a really serious business, you can't really do very much long term in regards to content management. I mean, if your goal is just a small to medium site, then content management systems can be great. If that's your goal, then sure, do that. Okay, let's go into another one now. Weebly. So, how would I explain Weebly? Well, Weebly itself, in the best way I can explain it to you, you've probably seen it in local business, joiners, plumbers, taxi firm, that kind of stuff. So why exactly do people use Weebly? Well, it's easy to use. That's one thing I would credit them for. But one of the things I would criticize them for very majorly is it's a very bad thing in regards to SEO. What do I mean by SEO in regards to this? Well, trying to do everything to SEO values or SEO quality to work things in regards to all Google's ranking factors, Yandex, other things, Weebly itself is not very good at it. That's something you will find sloppy with it. You will also find as well, most of the site designs from it are very dated looking. All the ones I've seen so far from Weebly, to be blunt, they look like a style from like the 1990s, like the first websites built in like the 1990s. Now, I'm sure you can make something which looks better, that's probably true, but most of the Weebly sites I see look very old, very boring, very stupid looking, very bad. They don't fill me with confidence. For example, if I was going to pay a doctor, say I was an American, if I was going to pay a doctor and I saw a site on Weebly for some doctor, I would not be like, wow, this doctor looks really amazing. I'd be thinking to myself, why would I hire this person when the site looks so bad? If he can't design a site right, can I trust him with my health or my body? The answer would be probably no. So that's something you should be aware of in regards to Weebly itself can't really do things too creative or too cool. If you're just a joiner, a plumber, something like that, then Weebly itself could be fine. But you have to realize as well, the cost to rank up a site on Weebly compared to other things will generally cost more. So if you're paying a SEO guy and say WordPress say $1,000 to do work link building wise, on Weebly it could cost you around $2,000 or potentially more. So be aware of that. It can cost more long term, even if it's cheaper short term in some cases. So be aware of these sort of things. And the style of these things is often pretty bad, so I would not recommend Weebly, but if you want to use it, it's your choice, like all things. Okay, let's go into Drupal now. Okay, so what's the story with Drupal? Is Drupal any good or is it bad? Well, Drupal itself is pretty good. Drupal itself is something which is very good with regards to e-commerce. If you're starting an e-commerce site or that's your goal, Drupal itself will work really well in most cases in regards to using this as your e-commerce platform. I have seen many very high quality sites running on Drupal, selling products, so you can have a successful e-commerce site on Drupal. That is something which Drupal is probably one of the best at in regards to how things work. You can also run a blog site as well, so you can do blogging, do e-commerce or anything else. There's a lot of very high quality sites running from Drupal. There's also a few government sites as well. So if the government's using it, you have to consider it must be up to certain standards. I have seen quite a few government-based sites. I think it was an American government site. I saw a Drupal site on it. So again, that shows you that Drupal itself is a high quality thing. The main things that people have issues in regards to Drupal, which can be kind of irritating, is if you compare it to WordPress, WordPress itself, when you update, you basically click your mouse, job done, no problem. But if you go from, like, say, Drupal 3 to Drupal 4 to Drupal 5 and so on, it can become quite complicated to move your content, your data over. That is something which Drupal can, to me, or should improve in some ways. You also find in regards to Drupal things, having new stuff installed, certain things will only work on, say, Drupal 3, Drupal 4, or another Drupal. That means if your favorite extension, your theme, whatever you want, only works in Drupal 3, that might mean you're forced to stay in Drupal 3. Or when you decide to move from Drupal 3 to Drupal 4, or whatever you're moving on to, it can become quite complicated. You also find as well with regards to Drupal, a lot of the things which people maintain or create are generally only done short term. By short term, let's just say I'm Drupal. I create a software today. I might only maintain it for 6 months. So you decide you really like my plugin or my extension or whatever I'm doing regarding Drupal. You might then decide, I really want to use this, but unfortunately it only works in this edition of Drupal. So that means I have to keep using this until like end of time, or you would then have to create your own version because I've stopped maintaining it or someone else has. That's something you have to be aware of. That's one thing I do find a bit bad about Drupal. The community behind Drupal, the people behind it, I have to admit, I've chatted a few of them, are very nice, friendly. I can't really criticize them in that area, but it could be better if it was better funded. It's something I would criticize Drupal for. To me, if it was better funded, like WordPress, Drupal itself could go very far in regards to people taking Drupal over, say, WordPress. But unless that happens, I don't know if Drupal will ever, if you like, outrank WordPress or something else regarding these sort of things. But it's a good thing if you want to do e-commerce, something I would highly recommend. If you're doing a blog site, again, Drupal can work. But it will be more complicated work in regards to easier things. So if you have no experience, I would recommend you take a course or you pay someone with a Drupal background to help guide you in regards to run a website. If you can do that, then Drupal can be fantastic. Okay, let's go into now Shopify. So Shopify, the main advantages of Shopify are this. Shopify is incredibly easy to run an e-commerce site. It couldn't be easier. In a sense, you'll basically have no issues with regards to selling your products. Or if you're going to have a blog, you can do blogging on Shopify in case you know. It's not just e-commerce, but Shopify itself is more geared in regards to e-commerce types of business rather than other things. You could potentially have a forum or a blog if you really want to, but Shopify is more an e-commerce platform. So here's the advantages of it, really. It's easy to run. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to have a website design background. You don't have to really know anything. It is very good in that area. If you just want to sell products, you can use software which you can buy, which if you're doing, say, AliExpress, Alibaba, or one of these sort of dropshipping sites, it can do it quite well. You can buy extensions or software to help things run. You can do it very automatically without you having to obviously do the coding yourself. That is something you can do very easy in Shopify. As long as you've got a small to medium site, Shopify's own servers will generally be good. But one of the things I have heard from people in regards to your site getting too busy, if your site gets really busy, I have heard from people in regards to Shopify, it can give you issues, meaning there's only so fast or so many products you can sell in regards to Shopify, its servers not being good at it. Now, it could maybe get better later on, or potentially has since I last heard, but if you're wanting to do things in sort of if you like your own customizing route, customizing Shopify is not that good, to be honest. It's a bit complicated to do things. You can buy things to do it for you, but you'll find in some cases when it regards to Shopify, if you want to do things add on, you might be paying, say, $30 a month. You might, with all your extensions, might go from 30 to, say, 100 to 200 or more money potentially. So that's something you should be aware of. Shopify itself can be good for short-term things or medium-term things, but if you want a serious e-commerce site, it will generally not be able to handle big business in most cases, but for small to medium businesses, Shopify is pretty good. But another thing which is very bad with Shopify, which I do dislike like most people, the Shopify staff, I don't know why, all the Shopify staff are grossly inconfident. But inconfident, a good example to share with you, just showing how inconfident most of them are. I asked a guy about websites, and the guy was like, "What's a website?" I was like, "Come on, you can't be as stupid, can you?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, what's a website?" So I had to explain to someone who worked for Shopify what is a website. Now, you don't have to be a childhood genius or Stephen Hawking or Albert Einstein to be able to realize knowing what a website is not a sign of intelligence. It's just common knowledge nowadays, I'm afraid. Unless someone is some sort of tribal person, every man, woman should have some idea of what a website is. Whether they're good or bad, it doesn't matter. But this guy had no idea. So his support for Shopify is very bad. One of the worst I've ever seen. So I would not recommend it for their support alone. That's something I would strongly recommend you watch, because none of their staff have any sense or even basic knowledge about anything. I don't know why, but it's what they've all like. Everyone I've spoken to has told me the exact same things. It's not just why I think everyone I spoke to says the same thing. Okay, let's go into now WordPress. This is just a site. You can get a guest post to the site as well if you want to. Just like an added bonus or something. So anyway, so why exactly do people like WordPress over everything? Well, WordPress itself in some ways is designed as idiot-proof. In a sense, you don't really have any really issues with regards to the design. You don't have to understand how hypertext markup language works, how JavaScript works, or anything else. You can basically get WordPress installed on your server for your cPanel or something else. You can get your theme installed, you can get your plugins installed, and everything will generally work fine for you. You won't have any issues. WordPress itself is designed to be easy to run. It's not designed to be hard. Because it's not designed to be hard, anything you may want to get done on a WordPress site, you can basically install a plugin, a free one or a paid one, will generally be able to do what you want. For example, Google itself have got their own plugin to allow you to check out your search engine data, your analytics, your AdSense, or the speed of your site. You can do it all from within your WordPress site. That is something which is quite good from a user experience or a SEO perspective. If your site loads too slow, you can install things like Clacks to make your site load faster. You can also install plugins which can improve your speed, regarding improving the speed, the coding of your hypertext markup language, your JavaScript, or your CSS, or something else. So you can get a plugin to basically do anything for you, whether it's a free one or a paid one. Regarding your themes, one advantage of WordPress, quite a big one, is you can make your site theme change in seconds. By in seconds, you can basically install a new theme which goes from like a magazine style to say a forum to say an e-commerce or something else. So you can basically change your design automatically. That is something which WordPress is very good. It's designed to be user friendly. That is a big reason for why WordPress grew so fast. It's very easy to do things. To get into the disadvantages, not a good one more thing to bring in this one. WordPress itself is designed for blogging. This means this is the ideal platform for if you want to do articles like they've done. This one, for example, is about the States. You can do things like that. We can also do things like that. We can do things like that. I'll just check a plugin to make sure. You can also check a plugin in case or data if you want to by doing this. If you right click, you can also do your page source inspect, or you can inspect to learn things as well. You can do it in any site, this site or my site or another site, doesn't matter. But the disadvantage of WordPress come when it comes to security. Security in WordPress is very bad. By very bad, even an amateur hacker can basically break into a WordPress site in seconds. An intermediate, advanced can basically get inside in seconds. Now, I know you can do things, make your password really complicated, like, for example, this certified here, like that, something like that, to make it more complicated. You can definitely do that, but you have to remember, WordPress itself will only be able to give you limited protection. Even if your password's really complicated, if someone is determined to get into your site, there's very little you can do to stop them. Now, I know you get plugins, like WordFence, which is quite good software for things to protect your site and other ones. But WordFence itself, I'm afraid, can be beaten quite easy. If someone is a really good hacker or even intermediate level, they can easy as hell break through WordFence or another security plugin. So be aware, your security on WordPress is very weak. By very weak, it is quite easy for an average man or woman to have the technical knowledge to be able to break into your site. It doesn't matter if they are a trained hacker, they can still do it. For example, let's just say your password is the word password. If your word to say password, that means you can break into seconds. If your name say John, say James, Smith, whatever, your name, someone can break in using that. So if you're having your password, make it weird. Make it different. Make it complicated like that. Make it as weird as possible so it's harder for someone to break into your site. Also as well, try and stay away from the whole admin dashboard. Try and make it different so it's harder for someone to break into your site. If you can change the URL to something just different like that, so people are not going to think that's your dashboard or how to log into your site. That is something you should do to try and improve your security of your website. You should also be aware with regards to security again. If you install a plugin which is say not been updated in let's say a year or 2 years, is a potential that a hacker has taken over. And if you install that, that could mean a backdoor is in your site. In case you know what backdoor is, I'll explain it to you in simple forms. A backdoor basically means a way some person can get into your site to do things. It could be to perform a redirection from your site to your site, to link just goes from your site to their site. It could be sell things on your site without you realizing or something like that. That's something that could be happening. So be aware with regards to plugins. Only install plugins which you are positive are secure. This is why it can be a good idea in some cases. You buy a dummy domain. This could be something you use purely for testing. You'll install any plugin, anything on, so if something goes wrong, it's not going to affect your money or your client's money. This is why having at least one dummy site can be a good idea, so you can run tests, experiments to see what happens in regards to your site. That's something you may want to do. But in regards to WordPress as well, the speed of WordPress is a very big flaw. By very big, getting a site on WordPress to load within 1 second, it actually requires in quite a lot of cases quite a lot of effort. This means compressing your images, making sure your themes as fast as possible, your plugins are as little as possible. This can become quite complicated, especially when you try to make your site as good as possible. WordPress itself starts to become very, very bloated. This is something which people often don't want to admit, but WordPress itself often the benefits, I'm afraid, start to outweigh the positives. The positive WordPress are quite clear, it's easy to run, easy to do things, that's definitely true. But once you get through all the benefits, you start to realize that the benefits are like that, but the other ones become a lot bigger, the disadvantages. So that's something you should be aware of. This is part of the reason for why WordPress itself is starting to go into decline. You also have to remember as well, WordPress itself is quite an out-of-date software compared to what's available now on other things. This is why people are more going down the whole static route regarding sites. Having a static site will basically make it load faster than most content management systems. That is something which WordPress was going to struggle for me to be able to keep up with. Now, WordPress might do something big, say 2 years from now, was to completely change things over, or 1 year, or even less time. That is possible, but either way, could completely change WordPress into something else, make it in a completely different language, different setup. That would be quite a complicated job, meaning everyone's site would have to get completely redesigned, which may not happen, or it might just say, screw it, I'll let WordPress die, someone else will take its place. But that's something you should be aware of. Meaning, if you want a simple site, then WordPress can be great, but you have to aware the security alone of WordPress itself is very bad. Getting a fast speed in WordPress is quite complicated in some cases. If you just got a simple site with no content on it, or you got just say one article, one image, it's easy to make it load fast, sure. But when you get into things more and more, you start to see the disadvantages with regard to WordPress can prove bigger than the benefits in some cases. Anyway, I think it's enough about website designing for this video. Anyway, see you later. Bye.